Gallery House in Ulster University's Jordanstown campus. It's a beautiful day here in Jordanstown, and we're really delighted to have people joining us via the wonders of the internet. So just a few housekeeping things. Please note that this session is being recorded, and it will be made available afterwards on our web pages. We'll be joined by people throughout the session, and if you have any questions you would like to ask, please click the raise your hand icon and ensure your microphone is on. We will then invite you to ask your question. Or you can ask a question via the chat tool on the bottom right-hand corner. So this is the Transitional Justice Institute. My name is Rory O'Connell. I'm Professor of Human Rights and Constitutional Law here at Ulster University, and I'm Director of the Transitional Justice Institute, or TJI. And I'll tell you a little bit more about TJI shortly, but first of all, I'm going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves and say a little bit about their research interests and what they teach. And also, we have a student on our program, and I'll ask her to introduce herself and say what she's studying and why she decided to come and do our degree here with us at TJI. So, colleague Siobhan, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Siobhan Wills. I'm the course director of both LLMs here. My particular research interest is international humanitarian law, and usually I teach that course, but this year I have research council funding, so I've been making a documentary about the UN Peacekeeping Mission in Haiti.
Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine O'Rourke. I'm a senior lecturer in human rights and international law. I work broadly on gender and conflict in human rights, and I teach on the gender and human rights module and on the Gender and Transition module.
I'm Louise Mallender. I'm a Professor of Human Rights and International Law here at the Institute. I'm involved mainly in teaching transitional justice modules on the course. I co-teach foundations of transitional justice and transitions from conflict to law and politics. My research interests are on transitional justice broadly, but at the moment I'm focusing on a number of projects relating to amnesty laws, the role of lawyers as transitional justice actors, and transitional justice in Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Jessica McElhone. I'm currently a student on the LLM, Gender, Human Rights and Transitional Justice. I decided to come to the Transitional Justice Institute, really the standing of the research that's coming out of here and the lectures within that teach. They are working in the practical field as well. So really with a sort of perspective of reputation, I decided to come down here with my interest being in sort of the transitional justice area.
Okay, super. So we'll have a chance to hear more from everyone later. But first of all, let me just say a few words about TJI. So the Transitional Justice Institute is a law-led multidisciplinary research center, and we're focused on issues of transitional justice. That is to say, how societies and legal systems deal with the transition from conflict or oppression to a more democratic, more peaceful rule. But also related fields like human rights, international law, peace and conflict, gender and law. As a research center, we focus on there are a number of key features about our research. First of all, we emphasize high quality, world-leading, internationally excellent research. And we know that our research is of this high standing for several reasons. Several of my colleagues, including colleagues in this room, have won prizes for their publications over the years, in particular for their books, some of which we have here on the table with us. But also, every 5 or 6 years, the United Kingdom carries out an independent audit of research quality in all of its universities. And in the most recent such exercise, our law research at Ulster was ranked 4th in the entire United Kingdom, with more than 60 law schools involved in that exercise. So high quality research, but we also emphasize a very distinctive approach to research which talks about action-oriented research, or research with impact. So our researchers are interested not just in abstract theories, but very much in tackling real, urgent problems and global challenges. And our emphasis on action-oriented research, on research with impact, is seen again in our results in that independent audit of research quality in the UK, in which we were officially ranked 1st for our impact score in that audit. So we emphasize high-quality research, research with impact. We also emphasize multidisciplinarity. That's a key feature of what we do here in the Institute. So many of our colleagues have law backgrounds, but we also have colleagues who have backgrounds in political science, in women's studies, in sociology. And even those of us who do have a law background are continually thinking about the socio-legal dimensions of law and practice, and we are continually thinking about what can we learn from other disciplines. As a research center, we also emphasize the notion of research-led teaching, and research-led teaching is key to our two LLM programs, our LLM program in human rights and transitional justice, and our LLM program in gender, conflict, and human rights. So I'm now going to ask our course director for these programs, Professor Wills, to say a little bit about these programs.
Hello. I'm just going to give a brief presentation, which I think you can see up on the screen, a brief PowerPoint on the structure of the LLMs, how they work, because I'm sure you'd be interested in actually what kind of classes you'll be attending and how the system works. So we have two LLMs. They are interrelated, but they have a separate focus. One of them is on human rights law and transitional justice, and the other one is on gender, conflict, and human rights. Both of them have small classes. The compulsory classes are usually about 20 or 30 in the class. The optional modules about 7 or 8. And as my colleague here, my boss, Rory O'Connell has just mentioned, teaching here is research-led. All my colleagues here are, I would say, world-leading in their field. So just the next slide there should have come up for you, describing the structure of the LLMs. And I'll talk about the LLM in human rights law and transitional justice first. In the first semester, you would study 2 core courses. They're not optional courses, they're core courses. One of them is Foundations of International Human Rights Law, and alongside that, you would also study Foundations of Transitional Justice. So you would have studied the 2 core courses that are in the title of the LLM, Human Rights Law and Transitional Justice. In semester 2, you would choose 4 optional modules, 15-credit modules, and the current options, they vary each year depending on the interests and availability of our teaching staff. But currently we have on offer as the choices: gender and transition, transition from conflict, law and politics, transitional justice, regional perspectives, international humanitarian law and transitional justice contexts, that's mine, economic, social and cultural rights, equality law, memory, politics and transition. And if you want to ask questions about what those modules are about afterwards, please do so. Towards the end of the second semester, you take a compulsory module that prepares you for writing the dissertation. So it's a research methods module that prepares you for writing the dissertation, which you write the end of semester 2 and over the summer. So I'm moving on to the second slide now, which describes the sister LLM, or brother, I suppose, the LLM, Gender, Conflict and Human Rights. In semester 1, you would study gender and human rights, and that's a compulsory module. And then you would choose either Foundations of International Human Rights Law or Foundations of Transitional Justice. And when you study those, you would be sitting in classes alongside the students of the LLM in Human Rights and Transitional Justice. So there is osmosis the right word? There is communication at any rate, a friendship between the 2 LLMs. In semester 2, you would take Gender and Transition, which is a compulsory module. So the 2 core topics of the Gender, Conflict and Human Rights LLM, the Gender in Human Rights and Gender and Transition. You do one in the first term and one in the second semester. And you would also take 1 optional module from the same choice as the optional modules for the LLM in Human Rights and Transitional Justice, which transition from conflict, law and politics, transitional justice, regional perspectives, international humanitarian law and transitional justice context, economic, social, and cultural rights, equality law, memory, politics, and transition. And just as with the other LLM, the LLM in human rights and transitional justice, towards the end of semester 2, you take a compulsory dissertation research methods module, which prepares you for writing the dissertation. And you write your dissertation over the end of the second semester and over the summer, the third semester. It's also possible to study the LLMs on a part-time basis, so I'll just run through the structure of the 2 LLMs if you choose to take them part-time. So if you choose to take the LLM in Human Rights and Transitional Justice part-time, in year 1, semester 1, you would do Foundations of International Human Rights Law. And in semester 2 of year 1, you take 2 of the optional modules, the same choice of optional modules as for the full-time course. Perhaps I won't read them all again, as I've read them twice. And then in year 2, in semester 1, you take the other compulsory module, Foundations of Transitional Justice. And in the second semester, you take one of the 15 credit optional modules from the list that we've discussed. Towards the end of the second semester in year 2, you would take the compulsory research methods module, which prepares you for writing your dissertation, which you will write over the summer of year 2. So that's the part-time pathway for the LLM, Human Rights and Transitional Justice. And you can also do the LLM in Gender, Conflict and Human Rights on a part-time basis. So I'll just run through the structure of that. In year 1, semester 1, you would take Gender and Human Rights. And in semester 2 of year 1, you would take Gender and Transition. So you take the 2 core modules in year 1, semester 1, and then in semester 2, Gender and Transition. In year 2, semester 1, you would take Foundations of International Human Rights Law or Foundations of Transitional Justice. And you would be in that class with students from the LLM in Human Rights and Transitional Justice. In year 2, semester 2, you get to choose one of the optional modules from the list that I've read several times. At the end of semester 2, you take the research methods module that prepares you for writing your dissertation. And over the summer of year 2, you write your dissertation. I think this PowerPoint will be available to you afterwards, so if you're a little unclear, you can easily check back on it. At least I hope you'll be able to. Teaching and assessment. The classes are a mixture of weekly classes and block teaching. So weekly classes would be 3 hours every week, or block teaching will be a full day from about 9:15 to 4:15. The reason that we do some of the modules on a block basis is to enable students to be able to do part-time work or full-time work sometimes, provided their employer will give them time off. And the days that you need to take time off are Thursdays and Fridays. All of our teaching is on Thursday and Friday.
And maybe if I can just pop in on that, we also, typically we run external events in our seminar room on Wednesdays,
Yes.
and our master's students often participate in those. So key days will be Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays.
Yes, and the special events that we have on Wednesdays are really very good, so you should fix that in. Please factor that in, thank you. My boss is very good at finding the words for me. All of the modules are assessed by coursework, a mixture of essays, and in some modules we will do presentations. And of course the dissertation, all of the LLMs require you to take a dissertation, and that's 15,000 words. The additional features. An essay writing workshop, which is usually led by Catherine here, so she can talk to you about it in the later session, big part of this session. We offer a Best LLM Dissertation Prize, which is sponsored by the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission, and they then post the dissertation up on their website. We have, as Rory just interjected here and reminded us, a lively schedule of research seminar series on Wednesdays. Those are usually, but we also have conferences that may not just be fixed on the Wednesdays, although Wednesday is a good day for it. We also facilitate internships. There is one competitive year-long salaried internship which is just for Ulster students, and plus there's a range of other internships that are facilitated there of varying duration and of varying remuneration. Career opportunities, local and international research and advocacy. A lot of people go into legal practice, a lot of people go on to continue in academia. Some of them study PhDs here, but people also work for NGOs, local NGOs, but also international NGOs. And I think that's my PowerPoint done.
Okay, thank you very much. So, a number of you have sent in questions in advance, and that's really great to see. So we'll answer some of these, and maybe I'll ask Catherine and Louise to take the first one in turn, which is, can you elaborate on the research-led teaching element, please?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, well, all of the teaching is research-led, and it's one of the advantages, I think, of coming to the Institute for your studies, is that really the people who are writing the key pieces of work in the field are teaching you directly. So, for example, a number of us are involved in, as well as writing books and articles, are quite engaged in policy work in this area as well for the United Nations and others, and our teaching will always be informed by that sort of cutting edge research, but also engagement with practice and policy, which I know students find quite useful as they move into looking for work in the area. Should I keep talking? Yeah.
Louise maybe wants to come in,
sure,
and then we can follow up.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the joys of academic life is that you get to research things you feel passionate about. That's really kind of what motivates most of us to become academics. And so I think what's nice about being taught by people who are researchers is that generally we bring that enthusiasm into the classroom. And so it makes it, I'm happy and delighted to be able to talk about what I'm researching with the students. I like hearing their thoughts, and sometimes I like testing ideas. And then I think in terms of how my research influences the subject matter that I teach, I think firstly, if you're research active, you tend to be very up to date with all the current debates, as Catherine was saying, the most recently published literature, etc. I find that sometimes I structure sessions in my classes around some of the things I'm working on. So for my module in semester 2 at the moment, I have one session on lawyers as transitional justice actors, which builds on the research we've been conducting in 6 different transitional countries. And I also think that through going to different conferences, going to different expert meetings, that exposes us to a lot of the debates which are going on within practice in different parts of the world. And that's something we can often come back and talk about what we've learned about the insights of the Truth Commission in Kenya or different things. And I just pick up one other thing, when Siobhan was talking about employability, it reminded me that often each year among our classes we get people coming from different backgrounds, and we often have people who are coming to do their masters at a particular stage in their career, people who've worked within civil society, people who've worked within UN organisations, and I think that's something that's really nice about the discussions in the classroom, because people come with quite different perspectives and insights onto some of the issues we're exploring.
We have a question in. Can you please provide some more detail on the memory, politics and transition module?
Who wants to take that? So our memory, politics and transition module. This is a wonderful example of some of the themes we've been talking about, because we've talked about the idea of being research-led, and we've talked about the idea of multidisciplinarity. So this particular module for the past few years has been taught by Professor Bill Ralston. Now, Bill's background is from the Department of Sociology, so not a lawyer, and he brings a very different approach to teaching on a master's program than you get from someone whose background is in law. He's also an excellent example of what we mean by the strengths of research-led teaching, because Bill is, in my opinion, the world's expert on political murals and their symbolism. And he has this wonderful lifelong project of traveling the globe, taking photographs of political murals across the world. And there's nobody who can speak more authoritatively or with greater enthusiasm on how we represent the past and the present and our aspirations for the future through this medium, this form of public art. So I don't, Jessica, you haven't studied this module, have you? Would you?
No, but I do sort of be familiar with the work of Bill Wilson because I did terrorism studies in my last degree, and I was introduced to his sort of concept of death squads and things like that there. So, and then I met him outside the Transitional Justice Building one day. He was like walking his dog, and I had a chat with him, and he was a very nice man, you know. Yes, that's my understanding of it.
All of our staff are very approachable. Yeah. Very happy to answer questions. So that memory module, as I say, is an excellent example of research-led teaching and of the multidisciplinary nature of our research. Bill also often provides tours of the murals in Belfast. So if you come to see us and you are fortunate, you may be able to tag along on one of those tours that Bill organises.
Yeah, it would be great. You can take me to parts of the city I haven't seen before.
Yes, I think one of the core elements of the module is that Bill takes representations of experiences and explores how they have been represented within and links that to the political and theoretical context. Would that be?
Yeah.
I think that's the core of it. It's also great fun. Often students that continue talking about it over the lunch break, so I have to stay in my office.
But just to touch, or go back to the research-led teaching bit, you know, my colleagues, I think, need to be a bit less modest about the impact that their research has on the quality of their teaching. So I was particularly struck by this because we have a policy of peer observation of teaching for quality assurance processes. So during the course of the year, every staff member will have another staff member attend a class in order to provide feedback on the quality of the teaching and help share best practice amongst members of the Institute. So I was able to act as a peer observer in one module last semester, and I was especially struck by the fact that Louise used the phrase, I think, keep abreast with the latest writing. But what I was struck by was that my colleague, who's Catherine O'Rourke, was ahead of the writing because she was able to bring insights to her class on gender and human rights that she knew about in relation to the internal workings of the United Nations human rights system, but only because she had done the research, talked with the people, and so really our students were getting absolutely the cutting edge research in this area on our courses. So I think that's a very important point about our LLM programs.
I might just add to the politics, thank you, by the way, but the politics of memory, I think that's a course that brings out really the advantages that you have of studying these issues in Northern Ireland and with us at the Institute, that not only do you have the insights from academic experts, but you have sort of all of the added colour and nuance and understanding of being in a physical environment that is dealing with these issues really in practice day to day. So dynamic murals representing the politics of accountability here in transitional justice as it goes on. It's really quite a unique place and space in which to study these issues.
And that module is also actually an example of the interdisciplinarity, sorry, I'm stumbling over the words, not stumbling over the words, of the interdisciplinarity of our courses, and that Bill is from sociology, and the courses draw on different aspects from different fields. So it's a broader, I would say richer experience than a purely law background.
So our next question is, I work full-time. Will a timetable be available before the semester starts so I can request time off from work? So yes, the timetable will certainly be available before the semester starts. We would hope it would be available in the early summer if anyone wants to contact us. As Siobhan mentioned, the key days here when our events and our teaching happens are Thursdays and Fridays and possibly Wednesdays. So those are the days to bear in mind. If you're doing it part-time, and part-time is in many ways quite an attractive option, but if you're doing it part-time, that means you have effectively half the teaching and half the assessment of a full-time student. So that might mean that instead of having to come in over the course of say 2 days a week, it would be maybe 1 day a week, or it might be 1 day a fortnight if you were doing the degree part-time.
So yes, the timetable should be out in the summer. It usually is.
Okay, another question then. Can you please provide guidance on the internships and internship opportunities that are available?
Yes, so we have an internship coordinator who tries to networks with local stakeholders and organizations in order to see what opportunities there are to for one of our students to do placement work with an organization. Last year we had quite a large number of internship opportunities. We had, for instance, I think half a dozen opportunities with one of the local leading human rights firms here. We had a number of opportunities with different human rights non-governmental organizations. So we try to create opportunities working with our partners locally. In addition, we also keep an eye out for and pass on information about externally advertised opportunities. So for instance, quite often the local Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission, our national human rights institution, will advertise a competitive internship with them, which is quite prestigious. And as you might imagine, it's fairly difficult to get into that. But so we circulate information about that because it's a public competition. And I think our master's students have been quite successful. Certainly in the past 3 years, I think we've had 2 interns with the Human Rights Commission. So there's those type of opportunities. I would say they are always competitive. So we don't guarantee in any sense any internship opportunity, but we do try to facilitate them as much as possible.
And there's the Law Society offers 1 year-long paid internship to an Ulster student that specialises in human rights or public law or transitional justice. It's a competitive system, opportunity in that you must write an essay, but it's there and it's limited. I mean, it's competitive in that you're competing against fellow students, but it is specifically for Ulster students.
So the next question, is any financial support available? So in terms of financial support and fees, you should take a look at the university's website in order to understand what the fees are, because they differ depending on whether you are a home student or an international student. And of course, the way in which fees are paid will differ depending on whether you're full-time or part-time. You should also take a look to see how they are paid, because the university does have a number of schemes in order to make it easier to pay. So for instance, for Ulster students, there has been a discount if you're a current Ulster student. There is a discount if you pay everything up front. There is also a very attractive option to pay the fees in installments over the course of some 10 months, which makes it more manageable. And in particular, if you were to take that option for the part-time degree, that would make the cost of a master's program much more manageable. In terms of other forms of financial support, the university will consider offering a small contribution towards fees to international students. So international students may be able to avail of a £2,000 scholarship, which is directly applied to the international fees. So effectively, it has the potential to reduce international fees by £2,000. And then do keep an eye on TJI's social media. Do sign up for our email newsletter on ulster.ac.uk/transitional justice, because we do hope to be able to offer some small bursaries later in the summer. So that's what I would say about financial support, unless there's anything I've left out, Siobhan?
We have had some students who come having got their own international funding as well, so some prestigious scholarships, like Mitchell scholarships, etc.
Yeah. Yes, I think the British Chevening Scholarship is the most. We've had several Chevening Scholars on our programs over the years, and that's certainly, if anyone is looking at any international applicant is looking at scholarships, that's certainly one that I would encourage them to look at, and that's courtesy of the British Council.
Student finance, maybe also talking about funding master's degrees. It's been in circulation, but obviously you need to sort of check on their website. And then there's Susie down south as well for funding.
But Susie?
Susie, yeah, SUSI. Obviously they do international students and residents of Northern Ireland as well. You can get funding from them. I think it's a bit of a nightmare process, but it is still there.
Maybe on the other side of this web, they know what Susie is, but I don't. So maybe you could just.
I mean, know it as Susie, SUSI. That's just the yeah, but then they do funding as well.
It's the Irish government-run
Yes.
funding scheme for higher education.
But like I said, there has been talks for master's funding. I've seen it on student
Yeah, I
finance
believe that
website.
now for non-international students that the government you can access loans now from Ulster to
Yeah.
study. About time too.
Our next question, is accommodation available on campus for international students?
Yes. But you'd have more fun in town.
There is, it's true.
Well, so the answer is yes. We should explain we're in Jordanstown, and probably if you're an international visitor, you have no idea where that is. But basically, Jordanstown is Belfast. If you find Belfast, we are a 10-minute drive from Belfast city centre. We're situated along the loch shore, so the estuary, leading out into the sea. We have a beautiful view out from our building, overlooking the loch.
It's really beautiful. There are seals there at lunchtime. I keep telling my colleagues, come down and look at the seals. And they just kind of look at me. But it's true, they are there. And there's a cafe.
Yes, so on a lovely day, as today happens to be, it's a 5-minute walk down to the loch shore. It really is one of the beauties of where we work here in Dalriada. The student village is also part of the Dalriada complex, in fact, so it is a 2-minute walk from our building here. But as Siobhan says, many students also choose to live in Belfast, and Belfast is now regularly appearing in lists of the most fun, most exciting, and most happening city to live and study in. So it's really a place worth visiting, both for the academic excellence of our degrees, but also the social life, I think. And Jessica, I don't know if you want to chip in on living in Belfast?
I don't really have much of a social life, to be honest. But, I do know a lot of the other students, it's sort of like a sort of sense of community. They all sort of rally together, and nobody's sort of left out. There's always, you come on for a night out, and there's plenty of places to go. I don't really go to them, but I have heard they are worthwhile.
They are.
Actually, what I think is nice about this campus is that it's very accessible. Like, if you do live in the city centre, there's you get out here by trains. There's 10-minute train journey, buses.
Yes, it's
And
very
it's a really good cycle route. So today was one of the first times I've cycled kind of most of the way along the loch shore there, and it was really beautiful in this weather.
And most of the cycle route is off-road.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
There's another question just on the accommodation topic. Does the Institute assist students in getting accommodation in town?
No, we don't provide assistance with getting accommodation in town. I would suggest contacting the accommodation office of the university to see what assistance they might have.
And they will direct you to the estate agents that deal with it. There are certain sections of the centre of town which basically are full of students, and all of the houses are available to students. So there is a very large availability of houses in town.
And there's a lot of new student accommodation being built directly in the city centre, because there's a plan for this campus of Ulster University to move to the city centre. So in preparation for that, there's a lot of new, quite shiny student accommodation going up.
Yeah, there is a lot of, and very nice, often converted buildings that are quite historic, in fact.
Yes.
So quite good living options, I think, already, and many more coming in the near future.
Yeah, and very reasonably priced, I think, by comparison with elsewhere in the UK.
Oh,
Actually,
Very
as well
affordable.
as Belfast was winning those awards for like being one of the most fun livable cities. I think also frequently listed as one of the most affordable
Yes,
cities.
it is,
Yeah,
definitely.
particularly students, yeah.
Plus, Belfast is quite fun, and maybe my colleagues might also want to talk a little bit at some point about the beauties of Northern Ireland, which has much spectacular scenery. But also Belfast is quite close to other parts of these islands. We are, for our international visitors, only a 2 hours train journey to Dublin. The flight to Manchester takes 45 minutes, the flight to London about an hour, a bit over an hour. So we have direct flights to Amsterdam and Brussels. So we're quite well connected here.
We also have direct flights to New York.
We're getting more international flights coming online this year, I think.
Colleagues, anything else on any of these?
Well, Northern Ireland is very, very beautiful. If you haven't seen it, you should.
Bring your raincoat.
I think one of the things that surprised me about Belfast when I moved is how friendly it was.
Yes, it
I've
is.
certainly lived in other countries. I think people here are generally very welcoming, very hospitable, and I think that's one of the things I like most about being here.
Yeah.
That and the fact I can see the mountains from the city centre.
Yes.
Makes me feel
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
No, it is.
Do we have another question?
Yes, one more question. How small are the classes?
That's an excellent question. Siobhan?
The optional modules are around 6. Depends, obviously, how many people choose that module, but they're usually around 6. The core modules tend to be 15. Well, what size are your core modules usually?
They're, yes, we it's about 12 or 15. That's
12 or 15.
Yeah.
And some of the LLM, where the foundations of human rights and foundations of transitional justice may be a bit more than 12, because you have some from, you have both students from both the LLM in human rights and students from the LLM in gender. So that would be slightly larger.
Yes, and it varies from year to year, but I think somewhere between 10 and 20 every year
Yeah.
for core module, and I think my optional half module this year had about 10 students.
So the core modules for the LLM in human rights and transitional justice can be around 15, 20. The core module for gender and transition is around 10, 12. And then the optional modules will usually be between 6 and 10.
Yeah. And I think what's nice about having that sort of small class size is, firstly, I think the staff get to know the students, but there's also, it creates a space for students to talk much more and participate in the class, either to talk, to get to know each other and do kind of group work exercises, or also to kind of have more general group discussions in the classroom.
Yeah, that's sort of the small group, you're sitting around in a circle and, you're able to sort of interact with other students and gain their perspective. And I sort of like that learning setting rather than, you're going to a big lecture room and you're sitting and, there's maybe 50 people and you can't really sort of gauge what the lecturer is saying, where it's sort of that more personal setting, you sort of the material, you sort of ask questions, because even though it's not sort of it's informal as such, and I like that experience. I think it's good. It's just me learning, because I'd be able to sort of talk, something I like to do, be able to talk, and there's the potential there to ask questions.
Yeah, I certainly think it's one of the key selling points really of our degree here is the class size and the accessibility of staff.
Especially compared with American LLMs, where the class sizes tend to be quite large.
That's right.
Another question, is it possible to switch from an LLM in human rights and transitional justice to the LLM in gender conflict and human rights, and vice versa, if after orientation you change your mind? So if you apply to do one and then do the orientation and then actually want to do the other?
Yes, it is. In order to, you will have to take the core modules for whichever one you end up wanting to complete, and depending what you've started off with. So if you change in the first couple of weeks, that's no problem at all. But if you want to change halfway through the year, say in January, then you may have to spend a bit longer to cover a core module that you've missed. But in theory, I mean, in practice anyway, I can see no problem with it, just to make sure that you cover the core law courses. Not core law courses, the core courses for the LLM.
So within a particular degree program, it's easy enough to change your optional choices halfway through the year. So if you register for some optional courses, when you arrive with us in September and you think, actually, as the class goes on, I'm interested much more in this issue that's come up in class, I'd like to change my optional modules, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is flexible. I mean, the two LLMs are interlinked, so changing the optional modules is no problem, and changing between the two LLMs is not a problem, provided that you end up completing the core courses.
I would also add that in my experience, I think we are quite good in terms of providing advice and support, both formally and informally. As I said, informally, we are quite open and approachable, and we have formal procedures as well in terms, well, if people have issues, academic or non-academic, we usually do our best to help them find solutions. So we are quite a supportive unit and quite a supportive institution. The university generally, I would say.
Let's make me think a little bit in terms of formal structures about the role of our studies advisors. So during the taught courses, you can go to your lecturers if you have any particular questions about the course, but you're also encouraged at least once a semester to meet with a designated studies advisor who may be someone outside your current teaching teams. And the purpose of those meetings is for you to be able to talk about how you feel you're progressing on the course, to talk about any particular perhaps study skills related issues you're finding challenging, or any other aspects of the course, or perhaps a work-life balance that you feel you'd like to talk through. And I think those meetings can be quite helpful, particularly where the students are starting getting feedback on some of their coursework and they want to think through, like, those bits here I'm struggling with on referencing or structure, and they have a sounding board with someone about how to improve for the future coursework.
And just in terms of if people are trying to decide between one degree program or the other, I would encourage them to make contact with Siobhan, because we're happy to provide things like reading lists and that sort of thing in advance, so that you feel you can make an informed decision before you get here.
I would like to come back to the idea of studies advisors. People often come to their studies advisor if they want to bounce ideas off them in terms of career prospects. And as Siobhan said, our students go on to quite a wide variety of careers afterwards. But one maybe that is worth thinking about, and we at least encourage all of our LLM students to think about, is doctoral research. So one way of thinking about an LLM program is that it's something, for example, you're really interested in and want to learn about, and that's great. Other people think about it in terms of their career development. How will it help them maybe move into an international organization or into the public sector or into some other particular employment opportunity? But one way to think about a master's program is as moving in the direction of an academic career or as a career as a researcher. So many people might want to take a master's and then go on to doctoral research. And our master's programs are quite well designed in this regard, because they do have a substantial dissertation element. The emphasis throughout is on research and writing research papers, also doing presentations and some group work, but doing research, writing research papers, and then writing a substantial 15,000 word dissertation. So that might lead some people on to think about doing a PhD, and of course we would hope people would think about doing a PhD with us at Ulster. We have a very well developed PhD scholarship program, a competition that is advertised every year, typically in December, with deadlines in February. And we're always happy to talk to people about that option at any stage, before they come here or while they're here.
I think we have quite a well-developed PhD cohort.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And they're a very enthusiastic bunch. They come from all parts of the world, and I think what's nice is sometimes they sit in on master's programs as well, so that contributes to some of the discussion.
And there's good mingling between the LLM and PhD students.
And another question in from Jessica Kelly. Is an LB mandatory for the LLM? I'm a master's student in human security and peace building, focusing on Colombian transitional justice and gender-based violence.
Great question. Great question. And the answer is that if you read the web pages for the full details, it tells you what you need is a degree in law, humanities, or social sciences. So again, this is part of being a multidisciplinary degree, a law-led multidisciplinary degree. So it is a master's in law, but we open it to people with primary degrees in the quite broad area of law, humanities, and social sciences. So that's one thing to bear in mind. The other thing to bear in mind, maybe one of my colleagues wants to jump in at this point, is that we also have the possibility to accept people with other types of qualifications. Because Ulster University has an extremely strong reputation for widening access. It's something that we take very seriously as a university at all levels. And so we have routes into degrees that recognize other forms of qualifications and other forms of experience. So typically every year we would get some applicants who come to us who don't meet the formal requirements, but they can provide us with information and details on what they've done that provides an evidence basis for us to decide that they can join our master's programs. Yeah, so I think quite a lot of our students, in fact, come to us with a degree other than law.
Yes, I know this because I process the applications, and a lot of people come with generally related, but occasionally I have made an unconditional offer to someone with a fine arts degree, but it was a very good fine arts degree, and her statement was really very strong. So it is possible to.
I should say that the Kelly's background, you talked about things she's interested in, that does correspond to other things that are done. Of course, I mean, I think for my own modules in transitional justice, the content would vary from year to year. Of course, as it gets updated and different things are happening in the world of transitional justice. But Colombia is something that has featured quite heavily in the last year or two. Obviously because of what's going on, and because I think a lot of people here in the Institute have been involved in various ways in that peace negotiations.
And if Kelly wants to, you might want to drop us a line, because we do have, as Louise says, quite a few people here have been thinking about and working on Colombia, so we can certainly provide you with more details about that. And for example, we have at least 2 of our PhD students are doing projects in relation to the Colombian peace process.
Yes, Kelly says she's read Isabella Fleecy's work.
Actually, Jessica's not a law graduate, so you might have something to say about that.
No, my background is criminology and criminal justice at the University of Ulster, and I sort of had Monica McWilliams with the gender as part of my previous degree, and that's sort of got me interested. But with sort of like delving into the law aspect with it, it's not too full on. A lot of people sort of, I think, initially they panic, like, oh, it's a master's in law, I'm not going to be able to do it. But I mean, it's a sort of a gradual process. You're not just thrown at the deep end. And as you sort of go on, you're able to sort of read the policy documents. You're sort of taught how to do that there. You're sort of taught how to interpret them. So it's, like I said, it is a process. I mean, I think I love the course. So I do, and I think the lecturers know on it. They're very supportive. For Catherine, for example, she would send us extra detail. Give us more work, she does. Like, if we've had a discussion in class and it's maybe not on the topic and it's something of interest related to the sort of area, Catherine has sent us links and stuff that has, it's good that way. It's something additional, so just went out of their way to sort of provide something that every class has been interested in.
You're getting a chance to meet some of us now. And we've talked a bit about some of our other colleagues, like Professor Ralston. Jessica refers to Professor Monica McWilliams, who's one of our colleagues, an emeritus professor with us in the Institute. And Professor Monica McWilliams was the Chief Commissioner of the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission. She was one of the founders of the Women's Coalition. She was involved in the Good Friday or Belfast Agreement negotiations. She was nominated for the post of Special Rapporteur on Truth, Justice, Reparations and Guarantees of Non-Repetition. So a really wonderful world-class figure that we're very proud of in our institute. And she's also done some teaching. So she's been scheduled to do some teaching on our master's programs, as usually for maybe one session a year, one session a semester. So we have people like that. We have regular visitors to the institute who help sometimes do guest teaching specifically on our master's program. So for instance, on one of our programs last year on gender and human rights, we had 3 or 4 guest speakers. We also have, as well as guest speakers in the modules, we have an extremely packed program of seminar speakers, conferences, workshops. So just the other week we had Professor Dan Joyner from the University of Alabama come and give us a talk on the use of chemical weapons in Syria and the US response to that. Tomorrow we have a really big event organized by Catherine here, and along with colleagues in other institutions in the Inns of Courts. I don't know, Catherine, do you want to say a little bit about what's happening tomorrow?
Sure. We're launching a book which is a feminist judgment project, and it's a number of academics and activists who've got together to rewrite some key judgments in Irish and Northern Irish law. So it's the culmination of a 3-year project. And the launch tomorrow, I think, is particularly significant because the Lord Chief Justice is going to launch the book, and it'll be accompanied by a roundtable of several senior judges from Ireland and Northern Ireland, which for us is great in terms of showing the impact of the project and engaging the senior judiciary. And it's nice because it links with education. Our hope is that these alternative judgments will be used to educate law students and lawyers, and encourage people, I think, to think a little more creatively about the sorts of arguments that can be made in court and captured through judgments.
And then in the middle of June, for example, we have a 1-week intensive summer school where we'll be welcoming 30 visitors from across the globe to Belfast to study quite intensively themes around gender and combating extremism. So these are just some of the events, some of the individual speakers that we have on a regular basis throughout the course of the year.
And what's the deadline for this year?
Well, we don't have a formal deadline as such. We would recommend getting an application in sooner rather than later, and especially for international visitors who may have other paperwork, visa details and so on to sort out. Definitely the earlier the better, but we will look at applications until Siobhan. When are we planning to?
Well, I have accepted people in the first week of term.
That's not the ideal.
That's not the ideal. But if in August or early September they are still thinking of things, get in touch. And certainly at that stage we can happily accept people. Jessica, maybe a question for you.
Okay.
What has been your favorite element of the course?
Well, I think we sort of touched on it through our discussion, the structure, so the personalized structure, the sort of the availability of the lectures, and sort of being able to approach them as well. And I think as well, being able to read the material that the lecturers are producing I think it's sort of nice aspect of the course, because you can sort of relate them. It's not as if it's sort of like a faceless name in a book, and I think as well as that they're the experience of the lecturers being able to bring in that they've actually been out working in the fields as well, I think is a really good thing. But I've enjoyed all of it, so I have, and I think I've enjoyed, obviously with gender, I've been learning things that I've never really sort of thought before, and it has sort of changed my view of a lot of different things, and I think that's a good thing, especially with learning. Sometimes it's good, sometimes now I can't watch TV programs without putting a gender analysis. I'm being really critical of it. So there is a few TV programs for me, but overall I have really enjoyed the course, and I do think within the Transitional Justice Institute, everybody goes above and beyond, to help you with your learning experience and with That's right. It.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And maybe Jessica talks about the gender dimension of our work, and it is worth pointing out that there aren't that many master's programs on transitional justice, and there aren't that many master's programs specifically on issues of gender and conflict. So that these are actually quite specialist programs. So we do offer, I think, content, but also delivery, which is quite special in my experience.
I think that's true, that we do offer a specialist program, but because the optional modules draw on human rights, those of you who don't want to specialize in your career in transitional justice or in gender can still go forward and have a career in human rights, because there is a core human rights element to it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, yeah, we produce human rights lawyers. Yeah.
Well, I think we've had quite a few questions, so I'm very grateful to Jessica and to Lise and Siobhan and Catherine. I'm very grateful to everyone who's written in and asked questions. Also thanks to our information and technology team in Ulster for setting this up, and to our Institute Administrator Maria for organising this. Do email us at llm@ulster.ac.uk, or take a look on our webpage, sign up for our email newsletters, email any of us individually if you have any questions, and we will get back to you. Okay, thank you very much.